Hey all, here at OS Reviews. Today we're taking a closer look at the Zimi Pure Pods. These are TWS wireless buds, which sell for around $50, so they're relatively affordable. And if you're not familiar with this company, Zimi, they're a subsidiary of Xiaomi. Box here is quite simple, and these two have a few unique functions to them. Claim to use dual drivers and also some noise cancellation for making phone calls, and has up to 10 hours of listening time per charge. With the battery case combined, you get around 30 hours when on the road, which is very similar to the Apple AirPods. Another unique feature here though is it does have a companion app that you can download for iOS or Android that allows you to further tweak and remap what the controls will do, as well as even have a function called adaptive volume adjustment. So basically, depending on how loud your environment is, it will automatically intelligently raise the volume higher or lower. Inside of the sleeve, we have, of course, the Pure Pods themselves, which we'll take a closer look at, and other packaging contents include a USB Type-C charging cable if you don't want to use wireless charging, and also a very nicely presented array of silicone tips to get a more snug fit, as well as a quick start guide. Taking a closer look at the design of the battery case, it is very clean and simple, constructed out of polycarbonate plastic, a little reminiscent of, say, Apple's AirPods, although the shape are definitely different. The very front here is completely flat, and towards the bottom here we have the Zimi button that you can also tap on to very quickly see the battery indication. There's some branding info on the back, along with just the Type-C port there for charging. Hinge here is also held into place magnetically, so it opens and closes quite well without really any issues. And once the door is opened up, they will begin to almost instantly connect with your device, and the process is quite fast and seamless. They are held into place magnetically into the battery case as well, so they don't really have a risk of falling out. Quite easy to remove and also to pop back into place for charging. By the way, they do support quick charging, so just around 5 to 10 minutes of charging will get you over an hour or two of listening time, so pretty convenient there as well. Taking a closer look at the design of the buds, they do have a stem to them, so that's a little similar to Apple's AirPods, but it does mean the microphone can be pointing a little closer to your mouth, and that helps cancel out some of the background noises if you're making a call in a busier environment. Otherwise, the stem area here is touch sensitive, just like most buds these days, allowing you to control different things like playing and pausing, skipping tracks, and you can also change the volume as well if you want to set up that function. There's a slight ergonomic tilt to them, and overall they felt comfortable when I was using them. They felt snug, even if I was shaking my head, they still were secured in place. So as a whole, lightweight and comfortable. Here's a closer comparison with the aforementioned Apple AirPods. You can see the stem here is a little bit shorter, but the overall weight and shape are both quite familiar. Of course, one difference is the AirPods have a open design versus having a silicone tip with these, so the Pure Pods do isolate sound better. The companion application, which is called Zimi here, is again what allows you to adjust some of the properties. You'll be able to see the battery percentage remaining on the left-right side, as well as in the battery case itself, as well as change the EQ for the sound profile. So if you want a bass-heavy sound, you can tap on that, or you can also change it to a more balanced sound, a clear one, or a vocal-centric. Otherwise, you can also turn on the adaptive volume function, so that's the function that I was talking about earlier that's pretty unique, using the software and the microphones to recognize how loud the ambient environment is, and so if you're in a crowded space, it will also boost up the volume of the sound automatically. There's also in-ear detections or ambient sensors on the buds, which means that they can automatically play and pause the music if you pop these out or pop them back in. Finally, under shortcuts, this is where you're able to remap the controls. Although one thing to point out is at the moment, the only control that you have is double tapping either on the left or the right side. So there isn't anything that you can do with a single tap or a long hold, for example, or a triple tap. So in terms of the double tap, you can wake up the voice assistant or change it to do something like the volume adjustment or skip tracks or even enter a gaming mode. What that does is try to lower the latency between the video and the audio that you're listening to down to around 50 milliseconds, and you're able to still have a pretty enjoyable experience. And finally, under Find My Device, what this does is if you've lost one of the left or the right sides of the buds, it will play back a sound from them to try and get you to find them if you're within a close enough proximity. But the restraining factor is you have to be close enough to still be connected using Bluetooth, but maybe one of the buds fell underneath a couch and you can now use this function to find it. So let's do a quick test there of both sides. And if I start that, it will start to get gradually louder until you're able to hear it. So of course you shouldn't be wearing these when you start this function because it will get very loud. Talking a little bit more about the performance and audio quality of these next, as a whole I am decently impressed with the sound of the PurePods, again with their dual drivers. They have a overall very clean sound, so you won't hear any hints of static, hissing, or humming in the background, which is good. And there is a nice touch of bass here, so if you're listening to a drum beat, it can also hit a bit, although I wouldn't say they're the most bass-heavy buds I've ever tried. However, because there is the adaptive equalizers, you can try the bass boosted mode, and that does help a little bit in terms of punching up the impact in the lower frequencies. With that being said, it primarily shines a bit more in the mids, I find, so if you're listening to instrumentals and vocals, that's where it's able to provide some more detail without seeming too shrill or sharp either. Overall, it's a comfortable listening experience, pretty much regardless of any genre that you're trying to throw at these, whether it's pop, it's rock, it's EDM, they will all sound quite good. Connectivity, again, using the latest Bluetooth 5.2 is also very strong. I was able to walk around the room and still didn't encounter any disconnection, although it lacks support for Qualcomm's aptX, for example. Low latency gaming mode is also a nice touch, and indeed, if you're playing back something like PUBG or a bit more action focused, you can get a very enjoyable experience, pretty much minimizing as much delay or lag as possible from wireless headphones. Call quality, as advertised, is also slightly above average. I would say it's comparable to the Apple AirPods, which is one of the leaders in the space when it comes to making calls. Even if there's some wind noise or background chatter, it will still try to isolate your voice. Also good if you're using these to make calls on Zoom, Skype, or Teams. It's another good choice there. So also pretty good for making phone calls in addition to listening to music, which makes them a pretty good all-rounder pair of buds in my opinion. So overall, a pretty solid pair of wireless budget TWS buds. These have been just a closer look at the Zimi PurePods. You can find out more details if interested in the links below. Thanks for watching here at OS Reviews.